Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love is going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in today on a great viewer question, and that is how to liberate yourself from the confines or being made to feel small as sort of the descriptor when you're trying to make sense of and move through and heal from a toxic, manipulative relationship. One of the key things to understand about playing it small when you're in a relationship with someone who is manipulative is there is a sense of deception, deceit, and sort of hiding the truth or someone's behaviors from plain view. And when you're in a relationship with someone who is manipulative, deceptive, and deceitful, it's to understand that there's going to, that there's a facetiousness or a front that you are receiving with this person. And it's not dependent sort of on the external, it's an internal front. An internal front. So it's enacting as if a pretentiousness or a pretending that the relationship is one way when it is indeed another. So there's a withholding of some of feelings. And so there tends to be a feeling of distance or demarcation of a lower sort of unhappiness or questioning. There's a lack of flow. So things can go in fits and starts, but to move through that feeling of being made small is really as sort of a reaction and a rigidity, if you'll kind of follow me here, a rigidity to accept that the big picture, in other words, your spiritual growth is meant to evolve around the corner after this relationship. When we look at really what love is the absence of fear and the absence of threat, the absence of losing, the absence sort of that encroaching on your, once you've made yourself vulnerable, sort of that open heart space. So usually when we talk about people who fall in love or the love bombing, there's a feeling of oneness, the answering to your prayers, the feeling like you've been completed by this person. This person is your better half. They round you out. They make your life a better place. They make the world a better place. There's a feeling of, physical closeness or playfulness. And oftentimes when you're in a relationship with someone who is deceptive or manipulative, means that there is a front. In other words, a pretentiousness or an internal front that they're putting up for you to interact with. So it's a deception, it's a deceitfulness, it's a duplicity of nature, if you will. And sure, everybody can, yuck it up, party it up, chuck it up, and there's going to be certain natural ebbs and flows to a relationship. Some good times, quiet times, rowdy times, coming into sort of, a pattern and then needing to try new things. However, when someone is made to feel small, it's when their own reality is questioned. In other words, when someone is trying to take the relationship to the next level or take the commitment or the responsibility and the accountability to the next level through either an emotional commitment or a physical commitment, such as moving in together or sharing holidays or something significant where you really truly feel like they're your significant other and you want them to be as such. However, in a relationship with someone who is manipulative or deceptive, there's a twisting. In other words, there's a priority that they name, and on their terms, but the terms oftentimes are not understood by the other party. Other words, to play along with their shenanigans or playing along with a sort of deceptiveness. In other words, a sort of stretching, if you will, when you're in a relationship that feels very much like growth, but it can't be growth if it's based on a lie. Love cannot grow if it's based on a lie, either if you're lying to yourself or lying to another. And so often, as kind of an after effect, people, as they continue along a relationship with someone who is narcissistic or psychopathic and has this internal front, eventually, subconsciously, they know that something is off. Something is not right. They can't put their finger on it. They can't speak the words. They can't articulate it. They know that something is off. They know that something is awry. They know that something is not genuine or authentic. There's a feeling that something is wrong, out of order, out of a divine order. And oftentimes that order is based on being able to call something and being able to discuss it to completion. In other words, you have a question that is marking the relationship and taking it to the next level. So usually there's a feeling of confrontation or kind of coming belly to belly with somebody and sort of questioning them and saying, but what about? And so you're trying to sort of put that little lure out there to see if they will bite on the real thing. Now, when they shrug away, or they oftentimes have a commitment phobia, which means sort of a fear of commitment, because the fear of commitment would mean eventually that they would have to stop the hiding, they'd have to stop the lying. But the narcissist, in my viewpoint, and the psychopath are incredible at stringing people along. In other words, just sort of giving supply what they need to continue to give to the narcissist in order to be there for the narcissist, stroke their ego, be there to be a supply source. In other words, constantly validate them. The relationship, if it's to be feeling large and in charge and like the real thing, because life becomes life becomes your oyster, so to speak. Life becomes an open book that you can write the fairy tale of your heart on in a real sense when you're able to experience a commitment and have an honest backing and responsibility and accountability. Now, when someone is deceptive, there is a degree of hiding. And hiding is basically a coward behavior that causes one to get into the lower energies. Everything is down, self-doubt, having to, lack it up, not speak, not question, not take your own sense of personal growth to the next level. Love is the absence of fear and the absence of threat. However, if there's always a sense of competition and a dependence sort of on the person for what they do, what they say, and then furthermore, the lies that they put together that are based on sort of this duplicity, there's a feeling of being made small or being relegated to a hiding, which is nothing more than a fear of the truth and being able to follow through on your own wishes, and to the point where they become what you are doing. In other words, you make that transition and you make that transcendence from I wish to I am. So in my viewpoint, that being made small, feeling meek, feeling disempowered, is when one is relegated to that intellectual, cerebral love with someone who has a personality disorder, because so much of it is caught up in the I wish. I wish we could have a deck. I wish we could have a pool. I wish I could travel. I wish we didn't fight. I wish that you would treat me to dinner. I wish that you would give me a foot rub. I wish that we could travel. I wish to learn another language. I wish to understand politics. And if you constantly wish without a plan, it's basically like relegated to the degree of worrying. And worrying, like one of my great colleagues once advised me way back when, worrying is one of the most unproductive emotions. Or rather, I think the term was useless emotions, because it doesn't really lead anywhere. It just sort of waffles around and it sort of lofts and it doesn't really float. It just kind of sinks. And worry is oftentimes instilled in people who are living a lie. There is a worry, there's a fear that they're going to be exposed, that they're going to have to come out of hiding. So my kind of feeling is, when you look at it energetically, when you're in a relationship with someone who is manipulative and deceptive, there is a degree of hiding, around, in the phone, in the cushions of the sofa, in the back seat of the car. There's a feeling of them hiding the truth. Yeah. We can get engaged. Yeah. We'll make this on the regular. Yeah. We'll do this on the daily. Yeah. We'll, have the consummation of our love. We'll have children. We'll have a pet. All these sort of promises that become nothing more than wishes. And the wish never becomes sort of materialized and manifested into the realization, the I am, the I have, I am doing. And sort of making that switch, being able to get from the dream state to the real and living the dream. It's like, it is not talking the talk, it is not walking the walk. It is just talking the talk, but they're not really sort of backing it up with a legitimacy or a what you might call as real or reality. So the reality is feeling like it's constantly being hidden from you, or it's being distorted. A distortion is really what causes the feeling of meekness and disempowerment. Disempowered means to be lacking in that connection to your passion, your authenticity, sort of that internal combustion, if you will, of your personality, and sort of that connection with the magical, the mystical, the surprise. When someone is themselves and you are yourself, and there's this independence, there's a feeling of, getting somewhere, or the relationship is feeling of a flow, or a lack of inhibition, or a feeling of I'm growing, enlarging myself, living with a big heart, living with not a chip on one's shoulder, but sort of being at one's potential. And the potential comes from repetition and experience, but also an ability to dream and look ahead, and to live and have faith and not doubt. So when you have the belief, it might not come in the next week, it might not come in the next 3 weeks, but it comes on down the road, and then you have this feeling of, I knew this, I got this, I had the faith, I had belief, and it pulled me through. And then there's a feeling of being like living the big life, doing your best, feeling that your life is what life is all about, that this is what was promised to you, the potential of life, the miracle of life, the sublime, the awesome. Everybody throws around, that's awesome. When you think about what awesomeness really is, think again and think about, something that is really oftentimes unexplicable, but when you see the sign, it was meant for you. In other words, it's the wanting a pet, and then all of a sudden you see a card with the exact pet that you would like, or you see a picture that sort of drops out of a folder, and something that was significant to you and you were meant to see. And then all of a sudden you feel like life is greeting you. There's an answer to your questions. There's an interaction with the universe. This is what I feel is exciting, when things really sort of turn the corner. When you go from feeling ignored to recognized and validated. When you go from living in hiding to coming out and living life in plain view and not having shame, not feeling that you have to hide. The hiding is like a vicarious hiding. If you understand, osmosis, or sort of a coming together of flow or energy between people, if you are in a relationship with someone who is hiding the truth from you, you in essence are going to have to, by virtue of that energy, feel that you all are also having something hidden from you. So there's a subconscious that knows more than what it's able to articulate. There's a feeling. Oftentimes people don't recognize the language of their own greatest navigator. It's like the greatest internal GPS is when you have your hands on the levers within, and you feel responsible enough, independent enough, which is crucial because there has to be this independence, not a dependence. Most people think that narcissists they love themselves, they're super independent, but oftentimes nothing could be more from the truth. These people are actually quite dependent on others, and quite not independent. In other words, there's a dependency on the validation, the attention from others, that they're only able to feel complete when they have this. And so there's a feeling that they don't have this completeness or wholeness just for their own being. And this can get very depressing for them. So to me, it's like they have to keep that what they might call that buzz going for themselves. But in essence, it's an illusion that oftentimes people get swept or caught up or snagged in, and then wondering why they can't sort of feel empowered. You will be disempowered to the degree that you are holding or hiding something from yourself, or you're permitting someone to hide something from you. I know that this is really, really super deep, but it's very important that you understand that living the good life, feeling that you're, living large and in charge, and that life is manifesting things, and that you're having that sort of just synchronicity where things just sort of all of a sudden almost seem to fall right into place. I made the right decision. This oftentimes is based on faith and belief, and that almost like the faith of a mustard seed. In other words, just a teeny, teeny pinch of it can create the most magnificent, large change in your life, just enormous change once you have that little faith of a mustard seed. The faith that you are magnificent, and that you have what it takes within yourself, and that it's inside of you and not external or to be hidden from you. So this meekness is feeling that you're lacking a certain energy or power or ability to decide or to incorporate or integrate this into your life. Integrate, in other words, being able to have everything that you want, your cake and eat it too, by not deceiving yourself of the calories. In other words, you're not eating a whole cake and saying, oh, this just had 5 calories. You're not living the lie anymore. And once you stop living the lie, you won't feel that you have a disturbance, an indiscipline. People oftentimes feel that, just being irresponsible and just living this wild life is the way to satisfy. To be indulgent is like the good life, and just to be reckless, or, sometimes people have that image as, that is where the fun is at, where you lose control or lose responsibility and accountability. It's really much to the contrary. that really you can only have those gifts once you learn the balance and learn that you do not live a large and in charge life through one of dissipation. Dissipation meaning where you just sort of let everything go, and you just sort of are lackadaisical, apathetic, living the bad boy, the bad girl, sort of that image of or whatever the image or the illusion that the narcissist or psychopath is portending or pretentious. Remember the front within, and that hiding and living sort of within that lie encased is what causes the smallness and the meekness. It's because the truth has been withheld from you and you've not been able to live it, breathe it, play around with it. You're not permitted that experience. You're not permitted that independence where you're validating that truth within you. You've got that seed of a lie that's still trying to proliferate, and it clogs and it just sort of tangles up your thoughts and creates that that obligation, guilt, and fear, that feeling of cloudiness or not being able to think straight, or a pressure. So as they truly say, the truth will set you free. The truth will set you free, but you have to try it on. You have to try truth on, and eventually it will fit. Eventually you'll see it's where your freedom is, and that's one of the most incredible experiences that you can have, is to liberate yourself from the lie or the illusion of being under or smaller than or needing to live a lie, needing to not, to swallow the hurt and to lie about your feelings, and to not demand that you live in the freedom and the release. So it is important then also to understand, I feel, that the role of the negative emotions are the ones that are the down, and then the positive are the higher vibration, and then the up. So you can just test this out when you go out for a walk, and you can look down or you can look up. You can feel down and out, or you can hold your head up and be inspired. You can hold your head up, and it's just by a virtue of making that little change physically and physiologically, you literally take your eyes into a new stratosphere. You literally begin to lift the emotions and lift your thoughts, but you have to be able to move. You have to be able to make that physical change and experience that will within you to get from the I wish to the I am, and to shorten that gap so that you're not living this big gap of cognitive dissonance between what you have and what you want. There has to be a coming together, an alignment, an accusal alignment, and a fusion of that. So even practicing this on a daily basis will get you closer to the truth and feeling empowered. Once you are able to embrace that, and by embracing, which means owning, and then transmuting that into behavior. So once again, all this will come together, all this will snap, especially when we look at, looking at your procrastination list, things you've been procrastinating or holding off on or brushing aside or putting on the bench, putting on the shelf, saying that it can wait for another year, How many excuses have you made to yourself that has now kept you small? So as soon as you stop the excuses from running your life, you'll begin to realize you do have what it takes. But you need to be able to experience that click, that switch, so that physiologically you'll begin to stop living the lie or stop in the worry, to catch yourself, to identify this, and to say, to what degree do I really need to face up to some specific truths about myself? In other words, the I need to to I am. I need to go on a diet, meaning I am eating healthier. I am needing to educate myself and then going to the library. So fusing, so you can't simultaneously like live in the fear and in the cessation of fear. You have to be able to say, I've got this. And having that faith and then watering that is going to help you to feel larger, stronger, that you're taking up the right amount of space and not feeling crushed down, insignificant, having no authority. The authority has to begin within you. So I hope that this understands what the disempowering and down emotions are. So feeling the less than, the lack mentality, instead of the uplifting and I have and I am mentality. Literally, it can be as experiential as looking down and hovering your shoulders down versus holding your shoulders back and looking up. And you can do this and practice this while you're out on a walk, or begin to disrupt the pattern of down and catch yourself and say, that was me going down, not going on that path, negative orderly direction thinking. I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to move along pod thinking, positive orderly direction thinking, feeling and behaving. And the most important thing is your decisiveness and your action. Decisiveness and action, because then you sort of ignite, and then that little flame will not go out until you extinguish it. So that little light of knowing what's right is within you. It's like that little eternal flame. Begin to get a glimpse of that and feel that. But oftentimes people feel that it's been snuffed out or made insignificant or not real when you're in a relationship with someone who is living a lie, or in a manipulating relationship where truth is being withheld, and you're sort of doing this dance, this little samba, around the topic, and you just sort of, I want to be polite, and you're not just able to either go no contact or say, I'm done with this. This is irrelevant for me to sort of coddle a lie. It's not important for me. It's not going to get me anywhere. It's not going to be in my best interest. And to own that truth, but you have to be able to articulate that from your own gut. You have to be able to listen to your own words and your own feeling that you've been trying to bubble to the experience, bubble to the surface, but yet people oftentimes sweep those away. No, that was just, no. This is all I deserve in life, just to be, sort of betrayed, and people can't be trusted, and I no longer love people, or all these, sweeping generalizations that come when people feel like they've given up on themselves. So do not give up on yourself. Do not, because life is running and cycling through you for a reason. You have a number of purposes, and to get hung up on a lie or an illusion of a relationship is nothing worth getting that snagged on. What's important for you to get snagged on is your truth and embracing your passion and what it is you want and what you've been blocking yourself from. So if I only felt good enough, I would. If I only felt smart enough, I would. If I only felt attractive enough, I would. If I only felt big enough, I would. If I only felt bold enough, I would. These you have to kind of jostle up these emotions once you've been made to feel small by someone who's given you an inferiority complex because of the illusion, because of their narcissistic needs. So it is okay to let go, and it is okay to have that sort of grace time when you go into this sort of pocket of the valley of your own emotions, and really make spend some time there and do some self-reflecting and introspection, and then say, okay, and then learn where you can then auto-correct or self-correct and saying, okay, this is where I got off track. This is where I feel I'm most on track. And I'm going to, even if it's difficult, I'm going to embrace this. Even if it's difficult, I'm going to embrace this. And once you do, you'll find little by little that you can begin to have a self-sustaining cycle within you that's like, okay, that was effective, that worked for me. And then in independence, free from the lie. Free from the lie is where the independence is, and free from the dependence. The narcissistic is dependent on others, and then people in turn become dependent on them for saying, am I okay? How you're okay is not dependent on this one person. How you feel within is where it all counts. How you feel within is what's important. That is what you need to discover about yourself and the relationship. And then the best attachment and connection can be that within. Once again, they don't teach you this in kindergarten, grade school, elementary school, high school. There's so much now, especially with Facebook, that you have to, scan so many different pictures a day. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of pictures of others are people always looking at? Like, and it's this binary system. I like or I don't like. Really? I mean, so really begin to say you don't need to fit into that binary like or that cog of a system. You don't need to force yourself into an unnatural mold. You don't need to live a lie. You don't need to lie to yourself. You don't need to lie to others. You can say, I am free. I am me and I am free, and that is okay. And that is where it's at. That is where things are happening. I am what's happening. Life is coursing through my veins. Passion is running through my veins. And if you can share the flame, if you can share that fire for resolution and resiliency and have that flexibility, let go of that rigid crutch where you feel that you've had to rigidly sort of hold yourself up on this lie. Because really that is very uncomfortable, and that what makes people, I feel, sort of meek and then feeling smaller or curled up. Look at your physiology, look at your body language, look at how you're holding yourself, look at how you relate to yourself. You have to be relatable to yourself first, and then to get what you're about and to embrace that originality and uniqueness, and then begin to sort of shore up that about yourself so you can experience that and manifest this and grow personally, professionally, psychologically, spiritually, financially, in relationships where you get to try your hand and your heart at different things. That's truly where you will feel like life is large and in charge, and you're living the good life